yeah, just go to the default setting that it has instead. There's not many differences between the templates. It's just some basic grid lines that we create, and some of the floors are different, but I'll show you how to create flooring and stuff like that, so it won't really matter that much. So, okay, so let's go back to the site plan. Do you have site on yours?
Site.
If you look at project browser and you go to floor plans, do you have that?
Oh, floor plans, yeah. No,
Okay.
yeah, we don't have site.
Okay, what you can do for this instead, I'll show you how to add floors, and we'll create that first, and we'll go to topography. So you have basic level 1 and level 2 and items like that, correct?
We have level 1.
Okay. So we'll start by creating different levels and sites instead. So if we go to level 1, or sorry, let's go to elevation first. So when you click elevation, you can see some of these building planes that are created. So there's level 1, level 2. And if you wanted to add a basement and let's say a few floors above, where was it? Just sorry, one second. It's a bit different than what I have in my computer. Okay, yeah, there we go. So there's 2 ways to add a new elevation or a new floor. You can copy and paste it. If you click on it, you'll see the modify tools that automatically locate. So there's a line tool which will allow you to line walls and flooring together, offset, mirror. A lot of these are things that AutoCAD has as well, just this naming that they have, so it's pretty easy to understand how these work if you know AutoCAD. But if you don't, just highlighting over it, it'll show what each tool does again. So the first way of adding more floors, you can click copy, and it will automatically show all the units and the snaps that you possibly align to. So you can try to do it by dragging it and aligning it the proper way like that, or you could type the exact unit you want. So let's say I wanted 12 feet exactly, you just type 12, and it will.
Wait, can you do that again? How you copy it?
Yeah, okay, I'll go back. So if you click on the floor, and it will automatically highlight the modify levels tab for you, which is how you can manipulate each thing you click on. So from the modify levels tab, you'll have the option of clicking some of the different modified tools that are on this tab at the top portion. So there's the copy tool where you can just click it, and then you click the item again, where then you just click and drag, and you can move it up and down. It will automatically auto snap and show different dimensions that you can move it to. So you click and drag, and then you can just click again where you want it to go. Or you could type an actual unit onto it instead. So you click, and let's say you want 12 feet, you just type 12, press enter, and it'll automatically move it or copy it for you depending on what you want.
How do you get the type box?
Pardon?
How do you get the type box? Like, where do you
Which
type?
box?
The type box. Where do you type?
There's no type box, you can just type on your keyboard. So if you want to just move level 2 up, you just click, and then it will automatically move it as you move your mouse, and it will show how much you're moving it with the numbers near the mouse when you move. Or you could type a unit just on your keyboard. So say I want to make it 8 feet higher, just type 8, and it'll raise it by 8 feet for you. And then if you want to go back, there's Control Z is just like AutoCAD or most programs like Photoshop for going back and forth. And then there is another way which should be easier, but I'm not seeing it right now for whatever reason.
Maybe we can increase the size of the screen too.
I increased the resolution as much as I use this on a small box here.
That tablet, you have the tablet? Yang, do you have that?
No, the guy who is in charge of the.
Oh,
Okay, I don't know.
he has that.
Yeah, he has it. Yes.
Oh, there it is. It was just small X I never saw initially. Or there's a second way you could create different levels. If you go to the architecture tab at the top and you click that one, you'll see datum, which is an area where you could create grids or you could create a new level. So if you click level, it will highlight where the level is going to be for height, and then you could use the align tool to line it up exactly to the other levels before. So if you highlight over it, pink box will highlight, and it'll show where it's aligning. So you can move the level, floor level up and down, and then you just click, and if you drag it across, and you can align it to the next level above, and then you can just click again to place it. And if you guys are looking at the project browser on the left at all, you'll notice that whenever you create a new level, it will also create a new floor plan view sheet for you on the left as well. So when I just click to create floor, and you see four is created there as well, and if you delete it, it will delete that floor plan as well. So everything kind of works together in this program. It makes it a lot easier when you're modeling, so you create one thing and it'll happen for the rest of the project, allowing you to work a little bit faster. So let's create a second level at 10 feet again, since the first one's at 10 feet. So if we go back to architecture, we click level again, and then we highlight it up to 10 feet, or you could type it again depending on what you prefer. And then you just move it to the side, and you just click to place it. And
how do you change the units?
when are you guys in feet or meters right now?
I don't really know.
I didn't see.
It should say on the top when you are.
Top.
Like here, I think.
Oh, wait, keep going.
Okay, right now you're in millimeters, so that's fine. You probably, when you download it, you probably just click Canada, so it automatically goes into metric for us, since that's how it works. But that one was in imperial. But you could change it in the options category. So if you type VG, there's a way to click it, but this is just easier. It should be here. Actually, I'll just check them out from here. Usually I have it just set in the beginning, so I'm not used to changing it. able to figure out where it is now, but it will come to me eventually. But it's not really of the utmost importance. You're just in a different working units. So 4,000 is around 10 feet. It does it at the same level. So if you just do a second one at 4,000 above, it'll be the same. But it doesn't really matter if your buildings are exactly the same when you create them. So, and then let's create one more level going down to the basement. So just click level again, highlight where we want it. Let's say I want it only to be 9 feet instead of 10, so I just click 9. And then just get it to automatically snap again by highlighting it over the ones above it. The way Revit works, it automatically names the floors when you create them. It tries to be a smart system, although it can screw up, obviously, like see above. Since I was creating ones before and I deleted them, so it says it goes level 2 to level 5. If you just click them initially and place it, it will work that way, but otherwise you might have to change the units. And also when you change one number, so let's say you change the very first one, all the other ones should follow. So if you change this to just 1, you could rename all the corresponding views, and it'll change all the other ones, so it'll go, at least it should have. But it should go 1, 2, 3, 4, but I think just because the way I deleted stuff in the beginning did not work properly. So I'm just going to change this to level 3 and then change this to basement. So just -1. So for each view, sometimes you don't want to have a floor plan visible. If you're doing soffits or something like that in a building, you don't really want to have a floor plan of that part of the building. So when you click on it, you can click the check mark and it should hide it from previous views when you're working. It will no longer show the numbers or increments like that, but we'll just keep it all visible for now. So if we now go to the very first floor plan, so floor plan 1, right now it's a blank file, but let's start by creating a grid. The grid's useful if you want to have walls that go in certain increments, so you want to have walls that are all, let's say, 12 feet apart. So you create a grid of 12 feet for each grid line, and it will allow it to automatically snap to these grids. Or if you're doing a column system, and you want to have all the columns, let's say 6 by 8 feet, you can create the grid line so it's 6 in the x-axis and then 8 feet in the y-axis. So if we go back to the architecture tab and we go to datum, you'll see the grid tool at the right portion of it. So if you click that, you are now going to be able to draw. And the way drawing works, you can only draw on certain planes. So you cannot draw in a 3D view since it's not on a work plane, right? But you can draw on a floor plan since it has a plane already created. This is important when you're doing walls and items like that. So if you're trying to do an angled wall that isn't just on a 90-degree angle, you're going to have to create an angled work plane to create this wall as well. So the way you can draw, there's a few ways to draw. There's pick lines, which is useful when you have all these grid systems created. It will allow you to just click the walls and grid lines that you've already created to automatically create a boundary that you want. Or you can use some of the other tools, which is a radius arc to create curves, center end arc for more types of curves, and then just a straight line. So the same way as we created the previous stuff, you just click and drag it down, and it'll create one grid line. And then you can create more the same way by just clicking and dragging. So let's say we want the grids to be 10 feet, so I'll just type it because it works a little bit better that way. And just click again. And then you can also use the modified tools instead of doing individual grid lines like I've been doing so far. You can click both of them, And to click both items, or if you want to subtract an item after you click it, you use the Shift and Control tool. So if you click Control, you'll see how there's a plus sign next to the mouse. So that means you're able to select more than one object. Or if you select a numerous set of objects and you want to add like a few individual objects, you hold Control and you're allowed to click other objects like that. But if you want to subtract one, you actually click something, an extra thing that you don't want to actually add, you click Shift and it'll show a minus sign at the top of the mouse and allow you to unselect certain things. So you could also just click and highlight to drag everything and select everything that you want. It'll show a box to show what's going to be in the selected area. So if we go back to the Modify tool, you'll see the Copy tool again. So instead of adding individual grid lines, if you want to save time, you can use some of these tools. So let's try to start with Copy. So you just click Copy, and you can click the grid you want to move it from. And you can move it so 10 feet, but we don't want anything to overlap. And right now we would have one overlapping. So if we can move it to 20 feet instead, and allow you to create a series of 2 instead. Or if you want to make it even quicker, you can do the same thing, but just add more, or actually click to move instead. So copy again, and you can drag and then take succeed.
Stop again.
40 instead, and it'll allow you to create your grid. And like I was saying before, it'll automatically name the items for you. So you have 1 going up to 8 for the grid lines that we've created. And then we'll want to have another one on the x-axis. So you can do the same thing, just click and drag. And then you can do the same thing by copying it, or you could create individual ones. So I'll do this one in a series of 12s instead. So, and after you do that, you have your basic grid system. So with this grid system, it'll allow you to easily create a building for snapping the building walls to the grid, or the roof, or the flooring, or any item when you're modeling your structure. So has everyone managed to create a basic grid system for their building so far?
Can you show the copy thing again?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So you just click the item you want to copy, and it'll automatically modify, or it'll automatically highlight this one tab called Modify, and it'll just show what you're modifying, so grids. But if you clicked walls, it would say Modify walls, or whichever item you wanted to kind of modify, copy, or move. So
It's not showing grids.
it's not. It should be. So click on one of the, click on, yeah, and see how Modify tab highlighted there? Yeah. So if you look at the Modify tab, there's numerous things that you could do to modify your building. So you could do clipboard to add certain things to the piece you create. So if you want to have detailed mullions, you can modify it and add a mullion template to create a more complicated form. But the main thing you want to use is the Modify section of this tab. So there's a line, and then there's offset and mirrors, basic things which will help you speed up the program. So for the copy one, you just click copy, and then you click the item that you want to move, and you just drag it down, or whichever axis you want to move it to. So if you drag it down, you can either follow the numbers on the side. So right now it says 15 feet. But if you want to have a more detailed number, or like a precise unit, instead of just trying to line it by sight, you can type the unit that you want to move it to. So let's say I wanted to get it to 14, but for whatever reason I just can't snap it or move it to 14 exactly, so you just type 14, and it will place it for you. If you want to be really quick for this, there's a second way where you don't have to align it properly. So for yours, for example, if you wanted yours to be all at the same increments, like nicely, you can click annotate, and you'll see how there's different dimension tools that you can use. So I'll just go back quickly. So back to annotate. So there's align dimensions and linear dimensions and angular ones. These are the main ones that you're going to be using. So angular is obviously for angled wall structures or things like that. So if you want to get a precise degree, or you can use the align dimension for straight lines. So if you click it, and then you click all the grid lines that you want to follow this dimension line system. So you click each one 9 to 10, and it'll show the units, so the spacing in between each grid line. And then you click it once again to finish and lock it into place. So it should be, there we go. And then you can click the lock button. And what the lock button does, it locks the grid or whichever item you're going to be using to the item that you're trying to align it to. So if you're trying to align walls, you can click the lock tool, and the annotate dimension will follow whatever the wall changes to. So if you move the wall from 6 feet to 8 feet, it will show on the annotate button that the wall has, that the dimensions have been moved. But the main thing that you would want to use for this part is if you want yours to all align to exact unit. You can see it's kind of hidden right here, but this button called toggle dimensions, equality. So you can click that, and it will align all of the dimensions that you have, and it will change the grids to align to your systems so they're all at an equal distance apart. And then you can lock them into place if you want, or you can delete it afterwards. See how it says EQ now for each one instead of showing a dimension unit? So now instead, when you move one, the whole thing will kind of change, allowing all the grid lines to stay in the same dimension place. So allow them to all naturally expand or contract instead. So did you manage to get it working?
I don't see the lock thing.
You don't really need to worry about it right now. I'm going to be describing it's more useful for walls and roofing and items like that. If you wanted to, the best way I could describe it is if you wanted to just lock, let's say this one, you don't want this one to expand or contract when you're moving dimensions. So this one little grid line here is locked, so these two won't move. So as all the other ones are unlocked, if you decided to move the grid line down, it will change them all other than the ones that you locked. But did you manage to align them all for the grids? You want me to go over it one more time for you? So, I'll just delete this again. So, let's say I was trying to be quick, so I still have it. I hit EQ, so it's automatically aligning mine, and I can't find the EQ button to undo it.
I think you need to go back, just close that.
So, if you want to align them again, I'll just show it one last time, I guess, quickly.
Do you want to start?
Want to go to annotate, and you can click align. and you click this amongst all of the grid lines that you've created.
Do you need to grab your mouse?
Oh, it's fine. I can use it.
The mouse is going to be a lot more useful when we get to the next part.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do that.
And then you'll notice on the right hand side that small EQ button. So if you click it, it will automatically align all the grid lines together. So if you screwed up on a few of them, it will kind of fix it and make it right for you.
Oh, I don't see the EQ button.
It's sometimes hard to spot, but it's usually in the center. Did you create the annotate dimensions?
I did.
So if we go back to annotate and then we click the line, you'll see right when you finish clicking it, EQ highlights on the right side. And there's an X right there, so it's saying it's not going to be equal if you move any of the grid lines. But if you click that small button, it will no longer show an X over to EQ, and it means that if you change one of them, they will all follow suit to create an equalized dimensions across the grid line system.
Oh yeah, it's here.
You found it?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, if you want to move the grid lines up or down, so mine are a little bit high on my working plane right now, so I would just highlight them all and go to the modify tab, which automatically shows when you select anything. And then you just click move and you slide it down and it'll allow you to move the grid line placement. So now that we have a basic grid line created, we still have to create a site. Normally it automatically shows up if you have the templates, but we'll create one quickly. So for the site, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to create it. We're going to have to go back to elevations. So when you're back in elevations, we're going to need to create another floor plan for the site for you guys. So we go back to architectural and you go to levels, and we're just going to want to put it higher up where the whole building is going to be visible. So I'll just put it at 100 feet, drag it across, and then I'll just type site instead of level -2. That should be the easiest way to create a site for you guys. But for the other computers that are working, you'll automatically have the presets, so you'll see how site's already one of the floor plans on the left-hand side in the project browser. So now we're going to try to create a basic site for our building. So if you click site again, it will show the site viewport, and we're going to go up to the massing and site tab, and we'll click top of surface. So the way top of surface works, you place individual points to create a site. Each point you type a unit at the elevation part of it, and that will show how high it's going to be in the y-plane of your model. So if you type 6 feet, it will be 6 feet above zero, so it'll create a slope across your whole site. The other way you can do this is by importing an AutoCAD file, which will have all these lines created, and will be coming next week. We'll probably talk a little bit about that. But once you import it in and you click topple surface for it, it will automatically do the entire topple treatment for the entire site. Some of these things I won't have time to go through, but I'll give you guys a link to the Autodesk website, and it has a series of tutorials for some of these small things, which will help out a lot.
How do you select more than one line for when you're copying?
You just click and drag, or you click, I'll just exit this quickly, or you click control, and you'll see a plus on the top of it, so allow you to click more than one individual one.
Oh, there, okay.
Yeah. Or, like I said before, if you just click the mouse on the left button down, and you drag, you'll see how a bounding box goes across the screen,
Right.
and anything that's inside the bounding box will be selected.
Okay.
But if you want to unselect something, let's say I screwed up and I didn't want 8 on the green plane, I can hold shift, and you'll see a minus is on the mouse at the moment, and then you just click whatever you want to be unhighlighted again.
Okay.
So when we're back at creating our site, so we'll place individual points for it. So you just place them wherever you please for this part. It's just going to be a conceptual building or a conceptual site, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like, but I'm going to still try to create a more rectangular shape. And let's say I want a ridge to go across the site, so I'll just create a series of points which will kind of show a slope going across. And then you click individual points. After you finish placing points, you just click the modify button on the left again, and it'll allow you to select individual ones. So as I click individual points, you'll see at the upper left portion of the screen that it'll say elevation is 0, 0. But let's say I want this side to raise up by 6 feet or so. So I'll click elevation, it says 0, 0, I'll maybe just click 6, and I'll raise it up by 6 feet.
There we go.
And as you see, it will show a reference line for every increment. If it's in Imperial, it will be a different increment, and you can change these in the options category, which we'll go through later on. But right now, it's just showing 1 line per foot. So I'll change the other one to 6 feet as well. And it'll create kind of a boundary on where the flat plane is going to be and where a hill kind of begins on the site that we're creating. When you're done creating the site, you just click the check mark as in finish, and then the site will be created. If we go to some of the elevations, we'll be able to see what the site is going to look like. The east elevation, so you can see how it's just raising up on one side. If you want to see a 3-dimensional view of the site or any part of the building, you're going to click view, and you'll see the house in the middle, which says 3D view. You just click that, and it'll go to an automatic raised view of the site. But you also have the option of creating a camera view across, so if you want like a small snapshot of the interior part of the building, you click and drag, and it will select a small view. When we create a building, we will look at that more so, but right now let's just create a default 3D view. So you click that, save the project. And it will automatically do notifications telling you to save. You can do automatic saves for it, but it does take up a lot of memory when you do that. So it will slow the computer down, so unless you have a really high powered computer, I wouldn't recommend doing that. So I'll just leave it on desktop for now. So after we click 3D view, it'll just highlight, or it'll show up 3D dimension of the site, and you can click the box on the top left to move around like we did in the beginning. So that way you can get to certain views if you want, and you can use scroll on the mouse to zoom in and out. There's other ways to move around, much like in other 3D programs. If you hold shift, you could move around by clicking the scroll as well, and allow you to rotate around the entire site. Or you can hold control and then the scroll tab, and allow you to zoom in out. And then if you just hit the scroll without hitting shift or control, it'll allow you to pan through the site. This will allow you, yeah?
What are those lines?
Click on the scroll button.
Pardon?
Like the lines you just created.
Yeah, and then just like.
Those were the topography lines. They automatically create when you create your site. So each line right now represents a foot raise in the site area.
Okay.
So this is a 0 marker. This is 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, going up to 6.
Okay.
you can change the dimensions, or you can change how that works in the view option category. I'll go through that later on. But it's just showing where the site raises or lowers.
Okay.
So when we created our topography, we typed in different units, right? So I put 6 feet along the edges, so it went up 6 feet.
Yeah.
And then it'll automatically create a slope by the points that you created.
Okay.
And that's what resulted in the slope that's what was the result of the points that I put on to the site. So if we go back to site, we're now going to want to create a building pad for our building. So the building pad is one of the few things which completely cut through the topography. Most other tools won't be able to do that. So this is for creating foundations or slab on grade or anything like that. So if we go back to massing and site, you'll see the building pad again in the model site tab. And again, if you're not quite sure how any of these work, you just hold your mouse over it and it'll show you what each tool does. So we're going to have to draw what we want our building foundation to kind of look like. We have the grid lines created, so it will make it a lot easier if we want to just follow those. So that's something that's, like I was saying before, it makes it a lot easier now when you're creating the actual building.
Our massing and site tab isn't, like the options aren't coming up. Oh, wait.
None of the options are there? It might be, do you see this button right here?
Oh, there, okay, we got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I should have said this in the beginning, but there's a way you can change how the tiles look. If you see this small button here, you can click this and you can minimize the panel tiles or the tabs or change the way how the whole system looks. So we'll start by creating our building pad, and it's the same way that we create our grid lines. Everything from now on is going to be kind of created by the drawing tool, where you have to draw on a certain plane to create anything. So we've got a whole series of tools that we can use to make drawing a lot easier. We have like a rectangle tool, so if you wanted to just create a box for the building pad, you can do that, click, and it'll automatically create the highlighted line where you just draw. I'll be right back, I just need another glass of water. And then, as you see, you could notice how there's the lock icons along on the screen. So how that works, if you want the building to actually, if you don't want it to change at all, you click the lock icon and it'll lock the highlighted area to the grid line that you just created. So the main thing that will allow you to do is if you're modeling a building and you're like, crap, I wanted it to be an 8-foot grid instead of a 6-foot grid. So my whole dimension are wrong. You hit the lock thing in the beginning, and when you move the grid line on the axis, the whole building will change its form according to the locks that you created. So usually it's a good idea to lock it if you want to do any future changes. It means it's kind of like set in point and it's working with the grid line. So if you want to change the whole building, you can just change the grid line and the rest of the building will follow suit. So you hit lock on the areas that you want. So you can hit lock on the lines that you want to actually be locked. But if you know you don't want something to change, even if you accidentally screw up, you can just hit unlock and it won't follow the grids if you change the grids or any other part of the building like the walls. So this is also a good point, I guess, to go through some of these modified tools which make it a lot easier for working with. So let's say I wanted the rectangle here, but I also wanted some part of the building to kind of move to the right. So I can just click, and let's say I accidentally screwed up and I didn't automatically line it up to a grid line. And I actually don't line one up there. So there's different ways you can do it. You can click and you can drag the lines after you place them. So it'll allow you to allow more alterations after you've drawn. Or you can use some of these snap tools. So if you have a complex shape and it's not as easy to just move it up like that, you can use like the line tool to click what you want it to align to first,